Hey y'all, welcome to the newly renamed Jump Rope Podcast, episode 17. Today's episode is a fun conversation with three of my jump rope buddies, Aaron Fleming, Sean Hargis, and Richard Head. I said Dick. We talk about gear, warm-ups, workout routines, and the effects of music on our jumping and much more. These guys are fantastic skippers, super supportive members of the jump rope community, and it was my complete privilege to sit down with them and shoot the breeze. Let's jump right in. You're just so soft, and you know, I can kind of jack your volume in post-production, but if there's a way that you can be a little louder, that might help. So
Is that bad?
not in the slightest.
No. I could turn noise suppression off, but that's just going to happen.
Well, we'll do our best here. You can just shout at us. All right. So, welcome to the newly renamed Jump Rope Podcast, guys. You have all been on before as Skip Squad Chronicles, and as you know, we rebranded the podcast recently. And so I thought this was such a great idea to have the three other guys that have been on the podcast so far come back and just shoot the breeze. So, Richard Head Jumps, thank you for joining, and Aaron Fleming, Aaron Jumps 365. I think you've been the most mentioned person on the podcast, and you've been on more than anyone else. And then Sean Hargis. So nice to have you back too.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
So I want to know what everybody's been working on. Richard, I know I've seen you talking and working on release stuff, but well, actually I should start by having us kind of say where we're located, because some people may not have heard previous podcasts. And so I am Dizzy, and I am out in Minnesota where it is very cold now. And so I'm learning to jump indoors and be satisfied with that. Richard.
Yeah, I'm Richard Head Jumps. I'm in the Seattle area. What else are we talking about? What we're working on?
Yeah.
I think I've just been kind of moving into 2025. I think I'm focused a lot more on just my consistency overall versus learning any one trick or learning anything. I started a journal in mid-December and just trying to stay strong to like a full strong workout on Monday, on Wednesday, then one over the weekend. So that's been my main focus above kind of all else.
So when you say consistency, you mean consistency of like the days of the week that you're working out, or more, is it more about the actual workout, or a bit of both?
I think it's more, scheduling it ahead of time. I was actually listening to Sean's podcast this morning, and he had talked about, he's got 2 kids and a wife and a job and stuff. So it's very difficult to, plan things out. So I think I just try to, I can set so many goals and program stuff in my phone, and then I don't do it all. So I tried to really leg focused workout on Mondays, core focused workout on Wednesdays, and then get my weighted ropes out on the weekends. So again, like with the dog shit release goal, trying to set not a crazy high goal that I can't do, but just plan things ahead of time and follow through with those plans. That's been my kind of number one goal for this year. And so far, so good.
That's great. For those who don't understand what Richard means when he says the dog shit release goal, on a previous podcast, I was razzing Richard because he had a note in one of his reels that showed his to-do list, and it was like, be dog shit at releases. And I was giving him a hard time saying, is that positive?
I listened to that one.
Positive self-talk, like, do you know what manifesting is, Richard? But he was saying, hey, if I set the goal to be dog shit, I can't be disappointed.
Well, and I will say that I don't go out to be dog shit anymore. Now I go out to practice. Like I have
Nice.
leveled up. So
That's a good level up.
that's how we all get better, right? We all start at that level.
Yeah.
I get it. Well, and to put it in kitchen terms, I've thought about, you hear about these high-end like sushi places in Japan, and a lot of those guys that do that stuff at such a high level, they'll tell you like the first, year or 2 years or whatever, they just wash the rice. That's it. You're the guy who just washes that rice all day long. And so that's kind of what I compared it to is, if I want to be a master sushi maker, I got to put in my time just washing the rice. So
yeah, you got to be thankful for all of those leg slaps and all of the missed releases, the handles to the forehead. Aaron, how about you?
So Oh, I'm Aaron Jumps 365 from Yorkshire. My goals this year have sort of changed because going into the year, I was like, I'm going to smash every single day, and then realized that that's a unachievable goal. So my new goal is to now survive the year with the 365 calisthenics. So yeah,
Leveling it down a little bit.
level it down just a little bit. Like I'll smash it when I can, but then the next day I might have to survive a little bit and get through it.
How about you, Sean?
I'm Sean Hargis. I'm C. Sean Skip. I'm in Swanee, Georgia. It's a little suburb just northeast of Atlanta. Surprisingly cold here. I jump predominantly outside, so it's been a little difficult, admittedly, with the weather, but it's probably nothing you guys were not used to. Man, my jumping goals are kind of matching up with my health goals. The three big things I'm trying to work on, and I don't do New Year's resolutions because I never make them. But I'll do something like March 7th and I'll stick to it, or like February 8th and I'll stick to it. It's weird. So still figuring out when I'm going to pull the trigger on a few things, but I'm trying to practice reps more. It's always been kind of a brain twist for me to understand that, and I'm starting to kind of get it. So I'm trying to incorporate more body and leg reps. I've been practicing those pretty heavy. I probably do those for about an hour every other day. And then if I get something that works out all right, then I'll video it and post it. But I haven't posted in a bit. Also trying to get better at footwork shuffling because I just suck at it. So, you know, I'm in my dog shit era, I guess, with that. So trying to get that going. And then also the other thing that I've neglected for a while, and I want to get back to it, are double unders and double under variations. Switch crosses, double under switch crosses, double under crosses, and mixing those together fluidly. And that's something I haven't done in a bit. And I used to be pretty good at it, but I started trying it again here recently, and I'm like, man, I need to practice this again. And it's kind of left. So those are my things that I'm trying to work on. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I've been trying to work on releases. Not trying to. I have been working on releases and making progress, and it feels so good to make progress. Like those snappy catches, like I see these. There's several jumpers, including you, Sean, that just have these super crisp releases and catches, and it just, I don't know, it hits me on a deep level. Like that is the coolest sound. That what So
yeah, it is.
Every once in a while I pull those off, and it just makes me jump for joy. I'm like a little teenager. Woo! Look what I did. Anyway,
but I mean, I know I get excited when something lands pretty solid, or I get a couple of moves strung together that I didn't even have to look at. It just, like, my hand just went where it should be.
yeah.
And it doesn't happen a whole lot. I get a lot of failures, but occasionally you get the one that sticks. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, when Sarah was on a few weeks ago, she was talking about, I think it's called the tomahawk release, and I've seen you do that one. I don't. Is that where you release on one side, but you don't like return your hand to pocket? You kind of
release it, and you've got your body turned the other way, and you're kind of grabbing it like that, or kind of like that.
It just looks so freaking cool. I just love.
It looks cooler. It's a lot easier than you think it is.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe because your hands there, you've got more of a space that if you can just get some part of the handle to hit it, you could grab it. It's easier than you think it is. I think it's easier than just straight trying to catch a mick, to be honest with you.
Yeah. When Jenny was on, she was talking about how when she learned the mick release, someone wrote her and said, hey, how did you learn the double mick? And that she didn't realize there was a double versus a single. So what do you do, Sean? All of them? Like, do you do like a single? Like, so she was saying that what apparently was standard was a single where
like a
you
single
kind of
mick or a double mick. I do both. Occasionally I've done a triple, not too often, but I do both. It depends. Usually, like with a finish, if I'm going to do a toe catch, I try to get a double toe catch. But if I'm incorporating it into a routine with some other, moves on the front end or back end, I usually just try to do a single, because I think it spends too much time in the air. So
yeah,
and it looks it looks off. So I'll do a single or a double, and occasionally a triple, just to see if I can do it.
last time you were on, you had mentioned, I was asking you about your gear, and because you were a fellow beaded person, like I jump with beaded a lot, but you had been working with a 6 mil PVC rope, and I ended up buying a couple of those, and I think you were exactly right. They're like the perfect balance between that bead weight and then the PVC.
I did hear the podcast. You did say you got one, and you seemed pretty happy with it.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
fun.
I'm pretty happy with them as well. They're a bit forgiving, I guess, where PVCs can be. And they got a bit of longevity too. I've been flip-flopping back between the 6 millimeter PVC and your standard 1-inch plastic beads. Just because, beaded rope is just a powerhouse of a rope and it'll last forever. I mean, I've had 2 that I've beaten to death for years and it's still going strong. So it's just hard to let that go.
Yeah. I think you're right that they're forgiving, except I hit myself so hard in the ass last night with one while I was flying, and it took my breath away. It did not feel forgiving.
Winter, it seems like it's hard. It hurts more in the winter time.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, I know. It's like hits that nerve where like...
Sometimes I'll hit myself, and it brings tears to my eyes. I'm like, good Lord.
Yeah, like the swear words don't even come out right because it's so painful.
Yep, I've had that happen.
Yeah. So, Aaron, I know in a group we were talking about different gear recently. I'm curious, like, what are you jumping with most often now?
So now I've got into like building my own ropes a lot more. So obviously I like as heavy as a rope as I can get your hands on. So I found these 2-inch weighted beads, which I like to skip with. They don't seem to last too long though, or maybe it's just nothing ever lasts too long. But I've got it in my hands. But yeah, so it's 2-inch weighted beads, and you like the thicker cord and stuff like that. So longer handles. Yeah. So I just like as much as it, as long as it weighs as much as it can. I'm happy.
Yeah. So when you say the weighted beads, like I know you and I both have jumped with Mira Weights, weighted, that blue rope, the weighted beaded rope. Are you building ropes that are kind of that heavy or as close as possible?
With Mira's one, the handles are really heavy.
They're wood, so they're timber.
Yeah, the handles are heavy, and then obviously the rope, everything. Where these ones, it's mainly the rope itself, and then I like trick handles. They just weigh the same no matter what. But yeah, I'm just trying to get that rope as heavy as I can.
Yeah. Do you have fun? Like, are you making designs out of them, or are you just? Are they pretty plain?
At the minute, I've just got the white beads, and I'm going through them pretty quickly, unfortunately. So I'm going to be buying like loads of different colours and just experimenting a bit more. I might even change the handles. So I use the long ones, which normally you would use a long handle for a TS. I can cross my arms all day behind me. I probably don't need them long handles.
Yeah.
Are those the 8-inch handles?
See there? I forgot one. I have one up here. A minute. Oh. So the handles are like that long.
Wow.
Which isn't
about 8 inches. Yeah.
They're not as long as like you see the super long ones, and then obviously they're not the same as a short handle. So they're like somewhere in the middle.
Got a bunch of those, and I've used them so long. You see the blue part on the bottom.
I've got one like that. Yeah, full crutched up.
It's only like a quarter of that now because it's been chewed to death by the pavement.
And then when you've got to try and change the thing, you can't get the string up properly.
You can get it out. Yeah, I can't even get it out. I'm sitting there looking like I'm digging for crabs or something.
That's funny. Richard, what are you jumping with most often now? I know you
got me
beaded, right? Like you got a beaded one recently.
You guys all got me the beaded rope. I had just done my 4-ounce cross rope was kind of my main workhorse for a long time. And then after that first podcast that we did, I think right after I ordered a beaded one and I like it, but it's a different thing. For me, it's like the difference between like a mountain bike and a road bike. Like there's still ropes, but it's a way different thing. Like the cross rope is obviously just, set your timer and just go as hard as you can. But the rope's a lot more like, I'll just set like a 20-minute timer and allow myself to stop and scroll songs and just try to do combos and be dog shit at mic releases and all that kind of stuff. So it's still like, what tool do I want for the job, right? If I'm just kind of screwing around. And that's the other thing that like, if I'm doing my workout on the weekend and on Wednesday and on Monday, then the rest of the time, like, cool, dude, I'll just put on some tunes and grab my beaded rope out and just, play around with it. So that's kind of, just that one beaded rope. And then I have another TBC that I got at the same time as my beaded rope, but I haven't really got that out. And I'm not ready to start collecting whip marks from that one just yet.
Yeah. Yeah, they're so fun. I was talking to some people about our ropes in this little, Instagram group. And one thing that a few people said, and I don't know, Aaron, if you said this, but like several of the beaded ropes that I have that I ordered from, major companies of which I am an affiliate in some cases, are just light enough that they don't work for me anymore. Like I'm going to gift them to people because there's not, especially after jumping with Mira's rope, that quarter-pound rope or whatever, there's just so much feedback that like learning tricks and pulling off moves actually seems easier. It does give your arms a workout and your shoulders a workout, but I just love that feedback. I would go to a light PVC to just go fast and have fun with footwork,
Yeah. Do you guys feel like you have like certain moves that are unlocked, but only for specific ropes? Right? Like I can double under all day long with my 4-ounce cross rope, but I can get a couple with the beaded, but it's a lot more dicey just because it's a different thing and the weight's different. Yeah. So I feel like I can do certain things with certain ropes and other ones. It's like, I could try, but it's a little more risky.
I'd say that's I've had that with the beater rope. It's kind of what they call it a slow rope for a reason because it doesn't move PVC. But I think my problem is I think it's a mental thing. I think I make it more difficult in my head than it needs to be. So I have that problem with some ropes. Just I feel more comfortable with it, and then when I try, I know I can do it, but it's just that I've psyched myself up, and then I can't. I get like 3, and then I can't get it. So.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny part, right? Because if you can do it with a heavier rope, like you have the physical ability to do it. Okay. So it has nothing to do with your muscles, right? It's all what your brain is capable of doing, right?
I think sometimes with the heavier ropes, the ones without the bearings in them, you start to use your arms more, and then it starts smacking you in the back of the head, which is the issue. Especially with like the beaded ropes, when you're trying to go for reps, there's only so many you can do before it's going to start smacking you in the head.
Yeah. When I got that beaded rope from Mira, the heavy one, I was trying to pull off moves that I've just seen you do forever, Aaron. Like you do, you're always doing EBs and I cross it. Like I can't even name most of the shit you do, but
or to the TS like that, and it's so wicked, and he does that right out of the gate.
Yeah, several of those moves that I was just failing with miserably with PVC or with beaded, which is normally what I jumped with. When I got Mira's rope, I was like able to do several in a row. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, I pulled off a couple. It was like, oh, I did 8 the first time I tried, and it was like, wow, that's really cool. And then I felt like after I practiced it like that for a while, then I switched to one of my normal beaded ropes, which is a heavier beaded rope, but not as heavy. And I could pull it off. So I really love the heavier stuff for learning.
What I found with my style is I need feedback the whole time. So my style is reliant on when the rope's there, I will do this move. So obviously without that, so when I was trying it with the PVC rope, it's sort of like I'm just doing the motions, but there's no feedback at all. So I have to think, well, do that move, then that move. Where with the beaded ropes, when they're a bit more weighty, I can just think, it's moving like that, so I'm going to do that move.
Yeah. I think for me, one thing that helps is being very conscious of directing things with my wrists. Like if you are using your wrists to guide things around, then when you've got a lighter rope, if you get in the habit of doing that with a heavier rope, then when you've got a lighter rope, you pay attention to where your wrists are more. You know what I mean? Because it's easy to kind of keep your wrists locked and do the arm thing, but you by nature don't have as much feedback. But if you're working on rotating with your wrists, then as you step to different grades of rope, I feel like that's helped me anyway. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
that's what I've locked into as far as the mic releases. I literally imagine once that wrist comes out, like arm comes out, I just imagine my arm is now like frozen in time, like a wizard spell, and only my wrist is doing it. Anytime my arm starts doing anything, it's just screwed up. So if I come around, and now we're just wrist
Yeah.
once around and come back. So, and the other thing I heard Sean talk about wrist versus PVC is the beaded ropes are a little bit slower. But another thing, and this is what Sean was commenting on, is with that PVC rope, if you're doing your crosses or whatever, it allows you to be a lot more sloppy. Like you can pull it through and, oh, my form wasn't great, but it's the PVC rope, so I can just pull it through. Whereas the beaded rope will not, at least for me, it doesn't seem to let you get away with that. So if your hand's not in the right place or you're not in the right position, you're not going to jump it. So the PVC is a lot more forgiving. But again, like if you're trying to learn the right form and the right whatever, like that beaded rope seems to be the one that just will be like, no, dude, that's not, it won't let you get away with any kind of like tomfoolery, right? Like you have to be just so. And so it helps you learn kind of your position and where everything should be. Because if you're even slightly off, you're not going to get away with it with the beaded rope.
I'm curious, when you learned to do releases or when you're doing releases now, do you count in your head or is it all a feeling thing? Like if, for example, Sean, if you're doing a double mic release, are you like actually counting in your head, or did you start that way, or is it all feeling?
It's all feeling for me.
Has it always been, or did you start counting?
It's always kind of been. You can just kind of feel where that rope is, and you feel where the rope should be and where your hand should be. The knot it shows up is a different thing, but yeah, for me it just seems like it's a feeling. And it's the same thing with different like mic type moves. Like sometimes I've been practicing these behind the back mix, and one thing I forget to do, and it goes back to what Rich was talking about, I don't spin my hand, and I'll forget, and then it just flops.
Yep.
I didn't turn my wrist. It's I just let my wrist. I got sloppy, got lazy, and that particular move is when I do it a lot with, and it's a feeling.
Yeah, and I don't know if you heard that podcast that Sarah was on, but she was talking about wrists too, and how, like, even with crosses and stuff, it's easy to just assume that you're crossing your arms and that the momentum of the rope is going to carry itself over your head. But you actually, if you're scooping with your wrists, you can be a lot more consistent and successful with them. And that's something that seemed like a forehead slap for me because I'd been doing it wrong for so long and not really using my wrists to carry it through.
I think you can get through one or two maybe.
Right.
But if you're going to do it consecutive, you've got to have those wrists moving.
Yeah.
I think a good way to practice that is, when you do crosses, if you just hold the cross and then you get used to your arms doing. When I practice the crosses, that's what I would do. I would just literally hold the crosses and do about 1,000 skips, just literally my arms crossed over. But then when I'm doing the other moves, such as like the EV and stuff, I've noticed I don't think about that bit. My arm's so used to spinning when I'm crossed.
Oh, that's really smart.
It means you're not thinking, I need to swing my arms around, because you're so used to doing it because you've stood there for ages swinging across. So.
That's good. That's a good drill.
Yeah. Also, when I was talking to Sarah, she said that you gave her a piece of advice, Aaron, when she was trying to do the EB jump, which was having like one hand in front and one hand behind and then jumping. And she was having a mental block with it. And you told her it's just like a cross, but with one hand behind your back. And that was like a light bulb for her. I thought that was a cool explanation.
That was a light bulb for me too. I heard that one and I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Sort of changed my
Makes
outlook
sense
on it.
now.
Yeah, because when you sort of imagine it, so like when I come from a TS to an EB, that is literally you dragging it across your body. But when it's forwards, so you go for it, it's just the same as a cross, isn't it? You're just bringing the arm behind you at the same time. So I always say, just imagine your body's not there.
Would you explain what a TS is for people who might not know these initials?
The TS is the move I've taught everyone. And I would not stop until everyone keep doing it.
Taught me.
Almost everyone.
Yeah. I'll get there. If you can't do it yet, I will get there. So what it is, it's literally a crossover behind your back. So it's like that, and then bring it back forwards.
So what is the
Aaron? I know your rope seems a little bit longer. Do you think like a little bit more length on the rope for that move in particular? Because I have that, like my beaded rope, I think I cut it down way too short. So I can skip with it, but I feel like, I don't know what your advice would be as far as rope length if we're focusing more on tricks and TSs and stuff, maybe a little extra length. I mean, we all want a little extra length, right?
So with my rope, I've got like super long arms, so it's not actually as long as it looks. It literally comes to my hips, but then the handles make it a little bit longer. But
Well, and then you're like 9 feet tall
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
my arms are like
He's
super long, so it looks really
Godzilla.
long when it's
Yeah.
But I would say you want it so like for a TS, for example, you don't want a long rope, you want it quite short. Because like you'll bring it behind you and then you're not swinging the rope. From that point it will just come round by itself.
Are you scooping with your wrists?
No, so you literally just bring your arms behind you and then the momentum will carry it around. You can then obviously keep it going by swinging the wrists after that. But it's mostly momentum and all shoulder mobility to make that cross.
So I had a great excuse as to why I couldn't do a TS, and now Aaron has just taken that excuse away from me.
Right. Yeah.
So thank you.
It's all about, so when I was showing Sean it, for example, it's when people go into it, they're trying to whip it behind them and it goes way too fast. And there's no time to react to then jump again. So it's like, it's actually like quite a slow movement. You'll do it and then it'll come round at your normal speed and then you just jump again to get around it.
So you lead into it with a jump. You're jumping it and then crossing after you jump it, and then it comes back around over the top of you.
Yeah, as it's coming around, you're then crossing your arms. So then it will go round once, and then it goes round again, and then that's like the TS. Or
So was there a trick, pardon the pun, for you learning that? Like, was there a light bulb moment for you when you were trying to learn to do the TS?
Well, what happened was that move, I thought I invented it. I was like, oh yes, I've finally invented the move, the TS. And then so I was kept practicing it over and over again, and it's almost like it's called a TS, not a behind the back cross. And I was like, no. Yeah, so yeah, with a lot of my moves I've learned them by mistake. So like, I'm going for a cross and then I'm tired and I'm like, what happened there? Oh, I'll practice that move, and yeah. So a lot of them are. That's why I can do them from move to move to move, because I accidentally linked them doing the wrong move.
How about this? Can you guys, since you guys are my male release heroes, if we're practicing our mix, so when I first started, I was just doing like side swings and then release without the jump. And then I started to get that. And then now we're releasing and jumping over it. I mean, can you guys speak on the benefits of like when you first were practicing, were you doing it without the jump, or were you always incorporating the jump into it? Because once I started incorporating the jump to it, I'm realizing like, wow, I almost have to start jumping before my hand makes the catch, and just trying to calculate that all together in my brain. I was wondering if you guys could speak about that a little bit, just practicing with the jump versus without.
I have so much video of me trying to jump and doing releases at the same time. And actually, surprisingly, I catch it a lot of the time, but I don't get over the rope much. And like the 3 times that I've done it, I've been throwing the horns and so happy. And then, I can't pull it off again. Anyway.
With the micros, I would teach it a tiny bit different. Like, so normally they're like, you'll do it, whip it really quick, and then it's there. Where for me, because obviously I like to go to a cross or to a TS or something, I will whip it, but go high, catch it high, and then I can go into any move from that. So that's when, like, if you go into a jump and you've caught it and so quickly by your side, you've got no time to get that jump in. Sometimes it's better just to do it a little bit higher and then get used to doing it. So now if I do it short, and I know I can jump that, but like, just if you literally, all you have to do is bring your arm a little bit higher and then catch it higher.
For me, I practiced without the jump, just learning the mix on the sides, and then let it fall to the ground or trying to catch it. But I was, for a single mix, I was doing a little bit different. I was trying to catch it in the pocket position, so my hands were near my hips. When I started doing doubles, that didn't work for the very reason Aaron's talking about. I don't have time to react, so you have to take it a bit higher. It's a double to triples to have it time to spin down to either pocket position or, like Aaron said, a little bit higher so you can bring it in to do something different with it. But for me, when I started, it was just getting familiar with the movement and getting familiar with that feel, I guess. For me, everything's been a feel.
Yeah.
I don't count. I've never counted. I listen to music quite a bit, but I don't listen when I do double unders because I like to hear and feel, the pavement hit for doubles or even sometimes triples to do those. It's just mostly been a feeling for me.
So, Sean, with the feeling stuff and releases, you mentioned that you sometimes do triples. Could you spin the rope just, 8 times or whatever and just catch it? Like, can you feel it to that degree where you can just kind of, at some point, just reach in and catch it? Do you have that muscle memory?
3, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I got so excited that I got a 3. I was saying, I was like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think maybe I'll try it this week. I'll give it a shot. I'll try multiples and see how it is. Maybe it's what you're saying. Maybe at that point I'll have to start counting it because it's going to be hard to just kind of feel 8 of them.
Part of the reason that I asked the question is that I feel like in order for me to actually start nailing them, first of all, I had to slow down because everything I want to do is fast, right? So I had to slow down. And then second of all, I had to count. And my coach is a double guy, that's how he taught. And I think it looks really cool. I love the look of the double when it whips around really quick. But I would get it going and then try and do the pocket thing, and catch it low. But I did, when trying to see if I could jump it, realize that didn't work. And so I was trying to catch it higher. But Nico from U-Rope, Nico Jumps Rope, she had a little dance rope video that I bought. And one of her tricks was release higher, and I know I had heard my coach say that before too, but for some reason, the way that she showed it, I tried it, and that really made a difference. I'm curious for you guys with the catches on releases. Like Aaron, you mentioned catching up higher. I've seen some tutorials from a few different coaches who talk about the necessity of like returning your leading hand to the pocket position as a way of sort of whipping the loose handle back into your other hand. Does that?
You don't need to move that hand. Well, I say this, if you're learning it from new, then yes, do those what they say. But like, so I can do the release, so then catch the handle there, to then cross.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have to come back down. But again, that's to do with feeling. Once you get used to doing the mic, you know that you don't have to bring your hand back down. But there's different ways of doing it as well, isn't there? There's like a wrist pop. I do a side swing before it. And then there's the normal one. There's loads of different ways of doing it. And then obviously the more confident you get with it, the longer you can leave it there. So I know a lot of people that they'll teach the mic release and then you've got to spin your wrist really quick. I know I will just do it really slowly and then catch it. There's loads of ways of doing it. So,
sure.
Obviously, if you learn it from someone, you're learning the way that they do it, and it will look like their one, not necessarily look like my one or look like Sean's one. It all depends on how you learn it.
Yeah. So the next step of a release for me is the Mamba, I guess, which is the release where you go on one side and then whip it to the other side and kind of go back and forth. Have you nailed that one yet, Richard?
No.
No. Sean, you do it pretty fluidly.
Yeah, I've gotten pretty good at it. I like the Mamba. I like the 360 Mamba.
That one looks really cool.
The other way is instead of spinning it where it's vertical or spin it horizontal and out in front of you and behind you. And I've been playing with that one a bit. That was pretty fun too.
Yeah. Cool. So with the Mamba, was it just natural to catch it because you had worked on releases so much?
That one was a tough one for me to get. And I think it was, again, I think a lot of his mental, this one was definitely a mental trick that I just had trouble with. I really had trouble understanding where the rope is. And once I understood, I guess, the mechanics better, then it becomes, almost, just reach your hand and grab it eventually.
Yeah.
But it's a tough one to wrap your head around. And the same thing with like another move that I struggled with was a switch cross. It was a mental thing. I just struggled, couldn't get it. And, I saw folks doing it. I'm like, just, how did it? Eventually it'll click, but it's, yeah.
Yeah,
mental
you
most.
mentioned that on the podcast that you were on was the switch cross and the challenges you were having with it. And I did one video a while back, and I think Aaron made a comment like, did I see a switch cross in there? And I was thinking, if there was, it was a complete mistake, because like every time I try to do it, I just whip myself. But yeah,
I go back to Mamba. It's for me. It was just understanding the mechanics of where the rope was, the space, and figuring out where my hand should be.
How many times
but
have
you'll
you
get it.
clocked yourself in the head when you've gone back and forth?
More than I can count.
Yeah,
And it happens all the time.
that makes me feel
Come in
better.
with I'll have, my eye looks black. And it looks like I just got beat up in the schoolyard. And my wife would be like, "What are you doing? You need to stop doing this." I'm like, no, I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep
Sean's full contact skipping.
I look like I got whipped by a cat of nine tails on my back. I just, I look like I was severely punished for something. It's just ridiculous.
Chewed on by a junkyard dog. Yeah.
The time, man. I get beat up all the time with the rope, and that's just part of it.
I've had 2 times where just as I'm getting ready for a podcast, I go like, check my teeth in the mirror or something like that, and then realize that I've got some lump on my cheek from hitting myself with a plastic handle at high speed the day before. Yeah.
When you forget that you've whipped yourself in the back loads of times, and then you'll get a shower and you're like, get out.
Yeah.
But you've broken the skin, you've hit yourself in the same spot that many times.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that's some fun stuff. So, Richard, what are you working on? Like, do you have any, aside from the release stuff, or do you have any other things that you're working on? I think you mentioned like shuffles when you were on before.
Yeah, that like backward shuffle, I don't even think I'm ready to incorporate the rope yet. Usually if I'm waiting for my coffee or whatever, I'll try to do a little bit of that. And I think more than new stuff, I'm really trying to look back at the stuff I already know and either learn it on both sides or tighten it up. Or a recent one for me is I learned crosses, and I realized I was looking at, I think, a Coach Nate video, and he had something of like some other trick coming off a cross. And I realized like, oh, I only know left hand over right when I do my crosses. And I've been doing that for like a year and a half. So then I had to go out and go, okay, here's this move that I had told myself for years and years that I already know how to do, but I only knew it left over right. So I had to go back out, and now I can go back and forth, left over right, right over left, back and forth as many times as you want. So I'm kind of trying to go back in the library of stuff I sort of think I already know and looking at it. Another one was, I can't think of his handle, but there's a guy he's always doing boxer skip to like techno music. And he's really good at like, he'll do the single side swing on both sides. And I had recently kind of seen him and realized, oh yeah, I can only do that single side swing on the one side. So now I can do them on both sides and just kind of holding that pattern. So I think I have a bad habit of, oh, I know this, so we're going to level up. And pretty soon I don't know anything. So I'm trying to really focus on like, okay, learning things on both sides and, using that beaded rope to really tighten up the things that I already know before I start going through the internet and biting off way more than I can chew. And then just the releases and the general consistency of my life. I think that's where my focus is. And I wanted to ask you guys too, maybe we can all kind of take turns talking about this, but like, if you're going to have a session, like, how do you guys think about that? Like, is it just, oh, I'm going to go jump for an hour and we're just freestyling? Or do we have, like, is there certain tricks? Or I would love it if we can kind of go around the room and say, like, I was listening to Sean's podcast and it really rang true for me because he was saying, I got to drop my daughter off at the bus. And then I have this little golden nugget of time, drop her off. And like, you got to, because once it's over, now it's time to be dad. Now it's time to go to work. Now it's time to pay bills. Now it's time to do all that stuff. And so that time that you have is such a precious little, thing. So I just was wondering what you guys, when you do have that time, like, how do you break it down in your mind? How do you, do you decide beforehand what's going to happen? Who wants to speak about that? Because I'm super curious.
I don't mind because it's exactly what I do. So I've got about an hour when I wake up, get my daughter ready, make a salad for lunch, whatever. I'll write down the things I want to work on because I know I'm going to do it at like 6:30 in the morning. So I'll pick 3 or 4 different tricks that I want to practice. I'll pick footwork that I want to practice, and usually that'll be the warm up. I'll do a warm up with that, and then I'll move to 10 or 15 minutes per trick practicing, and then I go back to footwork, try to tighten it up like you're talking about, and then I'm so attached. I got nothing left, right? I just take my brain and dump it out, and I just start skipping, and I do freestyle, and just whatever comes out comes out. I do that at the end for about 20 minutes. So I get anywhere between an hour and a half in the morning, and that's kind of the approach I take. But usually I want to focus on the tricks and the footwork. So I'll write down practice this, practice that, and just work.
Okay, so you're picking 2 or 3 items and physically writing it down just so you know, like, okay, that's the ones that I want to work on this time.
And so footwork is
what
your
about you,
warm up.
Aaron?
I just wanted to clarify with Sean, footwork is your warm up, or do you have a warm up routine before you start with that?
I have a warm up routine. I do jumping jacks and squats, like air squats, because it's harder to get the joints going.
Yeah, I hear you.
I do that to try to just get some lubrication going, and then I get up a good sweaty lather, I guess, and then get to the other stuff.
Aaron,
Sorry.
how about you?
Yeah, so I don't have a plan as such when I go out. I've got I said to Amy the other day, when when you're trying to do a new combo, I always go outside first and go, right, the first thing I'm going to do is record 3 videos of stuff I know how to do. So then no matter what happens that day, I can post 3 videos. Obviously, I post every day, so it's a little bit different. So no matter what happens, I can post a video. So that's my first goal. And then after that, I'll be like, I'll try a combo with this move or with this move. And then obviously at the end, I'm just like, I'll go through the footage and decide the best one. But there's not really a plan as such. So I'll be skipping, and then all of a sudden my body's like, oh, it's time to do squats, do press ups, and all that sort of stuff. That's why my videos are a bit all over the place, because literally I'll just be skipping, and then my body's just like, right, loads of press ups now, and jump in the air and go and grab your weights from there. So yeah, there's not really a plan. But obviously, I do know once I start to do. Well, obviously, when I start to do the skipping, if I do a cross, I know I'm going to do all the rest of it based on the way the rope goes and all that sort of stuff. So I have a plan in that sense, is every day I'm not going to hit combo. It just depends on how well that session goes as to what it actually looks like.
And from a previous podcast, you mentioned that your routine is basically you get home from work and then you start jumping almost right away, right? Like before you eat dinner. And you get in an hour, hour and a half or more, depending upon your progress.
Yeah. It's literally entirely dependent. So I think the best one I ever did, I went outside, landed everything instantly. So I did the B combos, and then I did the A combos. I was like, wow, this is brilliant. And then I was like, yeah, we'll do that. So obviously a lot of your session, when you're skipping, is actually failing. That's such a long chunky section of your session. So yeah, then obviously I just went to go in the gym. But yeah, so like if I can get it under an hour or an hour-ish, that's ideal. So obviously I can get in and see the kids and such stuff. But when it's a bad session, that I'm not coming in. I'm not coming in until it's done.
Yeah.
But again, that's mainly because I got that day counter and I wanted it every day.
Sure. Yeah, I did the jump rope journal thing too, Richard, and I've been trying to focus on basically 2 tricks, and then I always like footwork stuff. But I've said before, I have a warm-up routine, and then I've been trying to do I've been doing calisthenics as well. So like a jump rope warm-up, a couple rounds of calisthenics, and then jump rope warm-up again. And then I've been trying to work on releases, and then like bees and just more rope work, because I've focused so much on footwork. But I love footwork. And the problem that I have is that I put on music, like I'm always listening to music. And there are times where I intend to work on like EB swings or something, but the tune is too banging and I just can't stop moving. I post a lot of videos of me just spazzing out on the floor, Anyway.
You're in good company. I'm sure we've all done that. So.
Yeah. I had intentions on working on a very specific song last night because I'm trying to do a collaboration with someone, and my playlist was rolling over to these other great songs. And I was like, I got to jump to that one, and now I got to jump to this one.
Anyway. Do you so you know when a song's on? I'm guessing you would just put it on, and then you just then skip to it, and then that's it done, or do you so with mine when I was trying to work with music, I would try it, trip, and then try it, and then trip, and I'm constantly playing that same bit of song over and over again. I was like, fuck this song, and never listen to that song over again.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I start listening to music, because I want to hit a trick at a certain point, and I'll never do it.
Yeah, I think for me, for the most part, I don't choreograph stuff. I may, because of a certain song, feel like there's a certain piece of footwork that might fit in there really cool. Or, hey, when the drums do this, it'd be cool if I could double time my feet or something like that. But I'm not choreographing that stuff. So most of the time it's just me flowing, and I feel like I think of it as channeling the music, I just get into it and just see what comes out. But I have had situations where I've had a song that I wanted to skip to, and just seems like I have two left feet. Like I just, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the pace of the song or just the day or my nutrition or whatever, but can't seem to hit it. And then I've been like, all right, yeah, hell with this song. Let's move on. And then put on a different song and been fine, like absolutely fine, or pulled off something I really liked. So the music makes a big difference to me. Sean, when you freestyle at the end of yours, are you doing it to music?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing. Music can affect what you do and how you do it. I've noticed that. I'm guilty of the same thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you hit on something that just mesh, and it's great, but more often than not, particularly toward the end, I'm just kind of floating around.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll still get, if nothing else, at least we're still getting good exercise, right?
That's right. I was driving home today from running errands, and I hadn't heard this Marilyn Manson song, Beautiful People, in a long time. And so I told Siri to play Beautiful People, and I was thumping it in the car. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, all right, I'm going to have to goth it up and dance to Beautiful People with the rope and see what comes out. So be prepared. You might see Freak and Black Lipstick again.
I may be searching up some goth playlists tomorrow. Who knows?
Nice. Yeah. Richard, I'm curious, as far as your other warm-up stuff, like the stuff that you do that's non-jump rope warm-up, you're doing calisthenics. I think we talked at the end of last year, and when we did that group hang, about kind of things we were doing for the new year, and it seemed like both you and Aaron had calisthenics on the docket.
Sure. Well, I started with the 3 weekly workouts. The other thing that I started was just 60 push-ups in the morning. So that's not necessarily a warm up for, jump rope, but that's every single day. I haven't missed one. And so it's get straight out of bed, do 15, start the water for coffee, do 15. And, that's been really helpful. And then I have a kind of a set of stretches and things. I have about a 15-minute program of like hamstrings and, cause I had that injury with my leg, and so just kind of stretching out. But I struggle with that too, because I feel like, we just have that amount of time. And for me, I get up, I do my push-ups, I get my shit ready, and then I get to work, and then I'll do my workout there because I can shower and everything, but there's only so much time. And so I know I need to stretch out, but then that's time taken away from my jump time. So it's, I know I need to get those stretches in there for sure. Cause I know, with my cycling, I bike so much and never stretched and never warmed up and and it ended really badly for me. So,
how do you stretch your hamstrings? Like when you mentioned you have a stretch.
I'll just stand straight up and so toes to the floor.
Fold in half, kind of.
Do that. And then there's another one where I'll do like a figure 4 leg and kind of come back this way. Yeah. Do that on both sides, pull it up to my chest. And then I'll do that same thing, but I'll lie face down.
Yep.
And now I got one foot crossed over my chest and the other foot back, and stretch it that way.
Okay.
Both sides. And then, grab the foot and pull it up for a quad stretch.
Yep.
And then the other one that I've incorporated is like a 1 minute downward dog. So, that'll do your hamstrings and helps with your shoulders. And then I don't know what the reverse of that is, but I have a minute of the other way where you're bent out that way. So just a couple rounds of that. And then there's another one where you like sit on your feet and your toes point backwards and you're sitting on your feet. So your feet are kind of stretched out. And then I'll do that same one, but back up on my toes. And now I'm sitting on my heels and let that kind of stretch for a little bit. But yeah, I just have all that stuff programmed into this app and I'll just hit go. And then I don't even have to think about it. Just do what it tells me. And then before you know it, 15 minutes is gone and it's time to start jumping rope.
It's probably good for all of us to do some of that, to be honest with you. I do stretching in the evenings. But you've hit on some that I do want to try, so they would give it a shot.
Well, it's, I feel like, we're getting older. And so it's this weird thing where we want to, if you work out so hard that you hurt yourself and then you can't work out anymore. And while you're healing from your injury, you just get fat again and you're sitting there eating Cheetos and whatever because you can't work out, then like, should you have, is that better than if you just never worked out in the first place? It's this weird kind of cycle of craziness that I know me as like an older guy kind of deal with because I want to push myself harder, but I don't want to push myself so hard that I'm throwing all that work out the window because now I got to wait and heal up. So I don't know if you guys have ever kind of come across that, but
I'm bad with that. I never stretch. I get injured.
Yeah, I heard you say that, dude, and I was like, Aaron, buddy, you're headed for disaster, my friend.
I did my hamstring, which is 4 to 6 weeks heal time, but I didn't jump so I did like flow moves and a little bit of jumping for a week, and then the next week I was like, I'm not waiting, I'm doing it again. So not only do I not stretch, I then get injured and then jump anyway. Just smile through the pain.
One of the stretches that I do for hamstring that I found really helpful is kind of like standing splits and then bend at the waist. And so like I kind of do this and then bend at the waist. And then so I try to fold myself in half, and then once folded in half, try to move my torso back and forth this way. And you can totally feel the stretch go from one leg to the other. And then also you can twist, which is good for hips and stuff. So I do that one a couple times. That's helpful. Yeah, I totally found that I have to warm up. And there's so many times where I just want to get in and skip. But just because exactly what you said, Richard, like I know what it feels like to be taken out of commission because I was a dumbass, and I didn't listen to my body. And it sucks because all I want to do is dance and skip. And, at least now I can work on releases if my legs aren't working right, but I don't like taking it too far. And I have had several times where I've done all of my warm up stuff and then I get into jumping, and within the first song, I can feel that, injury flare, and I'm healed from it now, but I had one in my calf and it was so depressing. I was like, dude, I just want to flow now. I did all that work just to get to this point, and now I have to go home. It sucks, but
Done the same thing.
But I went home and I just worked on releases, and I was all right. Better than being out of commission.
Overtrain. That's like the main thing I do, like pretty much every day.
Yeah.
So like on Monday, for example, this Monday just done, I did jump rope when I got in for it. About an hour-ish. I did calisthenics after that. Then I did football, and then I did a 3-mile run after that. And then all the rest of the week, I've been like, oh my God, I can barely move. And then, so I'll do ridiculous amounts of press-ups one day, and then the next day, you would think, he'll do something different. No, he's doing ridiculous amount of press-ups again. So
that sounds like boot camp, Aaron.
Yeah.
Like that sounds like
It's bad. Like I've had people message me like, you're literally going to make yourself ill if you keep doing that.
Yeah.
I was wondering if
you're
you
ripped, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think because I overtrain, it wasn't it's not as effective as if I was to do it properly. So I was wondering if there are any of you get to that invested in the training way. It's just your body's just busted all the time.
Yeah. I've definitely noticed the age thing, Sean. Like you mentioned, having to stretch, like the joints don't move quite like they do. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing the difference. Like once I have stretched and once I get in and I'm doing my flow stuff, I can do squats. I can hold it for quite a while. I can but it's the first couple squats that I do where I'm like, oh my God, I'm an old man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I had to change how I do things. I turned 50 in July, so I'm right. You know that's going to be a big day for me.
Yeah.
But now I get to the gym, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and I do big bar exercises to get the mobility and hit the big muscle groups. I don't do a ton of weight. I'm not a big dude at all, but I'm doing deadlifts, I'm doing squats, I'm doing shoulder presses. Just big things to engage all the muscle groups. And then if I get lucky and get some time there, I'll skip. But my skip days are Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sundays. And I try to at least get somewhere between 4 and 6 hours a week. Skip if I can. So it pretty much packs my whole week. But I had to take that approach because of the very things you talked about. The age-related stiffness, and then I stretch in the evenings for about 40 minutes. And then one of the stretches, it's old karate stretches 30 years ago that I did, and using some of the things that Richard was just talking about. I think I'm going to try some of the moves he discussed today. I'll give it a shot.
I would love to ask technical questions about, I'm just fascinated. I make reels like a ridiculous person, like lots of reels. And I'm curious about people's technical setup. Like, Sean, when you are recording yourself, do you have like a little tripod? Are you using your phone, or what's your...
I got a tripod, and I just got my phone attached to it, and that's it pretty much, man. It's nothing fancy. If I just want to record just straight jumping, I'll just use the same phone I'm listening to music on. But if I want to try something else like slow motion, I've got an old iPhone. I'll listen to music on that and record slow motion on another phone. And if I want to try to play with some things, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But it's not fancy. I think those folks out there have got way nicer setups than what I got. For
sure. Yeah. What is in your post-production? So after you record, are you doing all your reel stuff within the Instagram app, or do you use something else to produce your reels?
I think a lot of folks, I use CapCut a lot.
Okay.
I'm pretty happy with that. I understand it. Some of those apps I struggle to figure out, but I think I can figure that one out. And then sometimes I'll do a little tweaking in the Instagram app, but that's pretty much it.
What was the name of that one you were using, John?
CapCut.
What is it called? CapCut.
Yeah. And there's a free app, but I think you can, if I remember right, you can like upgrade to have CapCut Pro or something. Is that right?
Yeah.
So one of the things I've noticed about your videos, Sean, is you have like this slide that you show at the end that says "See Sean Skip," or it's kind of like a logo kind of thing. Is that something you did in CapCut?
So so they've got these text templates you can play with different things.
Okay.
Basically, I just had a black picture, and I just stick the text on the same black photo, or I find a cool wallpaper and I'll download that and I'll use that. So
sure.
I play with it.
So what else does CapCut do for you that like you wouldn't do in the Instagram app?
I think it's easier to splice than it is in the Instagram app, because you can get down to like the real detailed minutia of seconds to try to fit things exactly where you want them. It's easier to put different pieces together if you want. At least I found it that way.
Okay.
And there are some things about the Instagram app I do like, but please, everything in CapCut, I could take out big chunks or bring in big chunks and do it pretty quick.
Easy to reorder things, and that's cool. Aaron, how about you? What's your post-production look like? Or what's your camera setup look like, first of all?
I just use a ring light. It is, I need to improve it, but it's just a ring light. It's just a thin pole with the tiniest tripod on bottom. So any sort of window and stuff like that, not things all over the place. And then I was laughing the other day. So what happens when it's raining and it's dark? I bring out an extension lead and a plug, and then plug that in the rain outside, and then I start jumping in the same water that light's plugged into.
Brilliant. Yeah. That's called natural selection, Aaron.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
That just means your last reel ever will be the most epic jump rope
It will
reel
be
of all time.
shocking. Yes.
No.
And if it makes it to Instagram, it just means that your wife prioritizes that over you.
yeah. I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah, so I do that, and then I don't really have much time between finishing my skipping and then getting it posted. So I'm like editing it on Instagram whilst I'm like still working out. Like I'll write a paragraph quickly and then go back to working out, write a little bit more. So yeah, mine's just all on Instagram, and then just smush clips together.
Yeah. Richard, what's your setup?
My setup, you might want to take notes, but I just throw my backpack down on the ground, and then I take my phone and I precariously balance it on my backpack. Done.
Cool. I did that
Yeah.
for a long time this summer. I got I think it's a Puma backpack at Costco, and it was just rigid enough, and it had a handle up at the top. And I stuffed it full of clothes and stuff, but I could just prop the phone up. And it worked really well, unless it was windy, and then it would take a nosedive. But now I have a tripod that's got a little clip thing in it that's extendable, and that's really helpful.
Yeah, I have one. I have one of those little just crappy tripods that's hooked to. When I go out back, I have like a plastic rack out there by my 5 foot by 5 by 5 cement block that I made, and yeah, it clips up there. But other than that, I don't really have. This summer, I think we're gonna do some more work out there and maybe put out some lights and stuff.
Cool. Yeah, something that I learned, which I think probably everybody else knows, but it took me a while, was that on my iPhone, if I film with the front-facing camera on where I can see myself, the camera isn't the same quality as the back-facing camera. So
Yeah.
especially in lower light situations, that's one of the really nice things about the tripod is like I have a mat or something that I put out or a place where I know I'm going to jump, and then I set it up and aim it at that. So I can't see myself while I'm jumping, but the image ends up being, or the video ends up being a lot better quality.
Do you find when you're doing that, with the back camera, because obviously I've started doing that as well, that you actually jump better when you can't see yourself?
Yeah, I've been doing it long enough that it would be hard for me to say, but I wouldn't be surprised because it just allows me to focus on my flow, and it's one less potential distraction. I know when I was first starting, I think it was probably not good for me to watch because I was trying to visually kind of process all that stuff while, and I could never get more than like, I don't know, a dozen skips in without tripping up. But that was also because my rope was way too long for quite a while. So Richard, you use cross ropes. We've had this discussion about cross ropes on Instagram, but are they not adjustable at all?
Well, so you can tie knots in them.
Okay.
But no, they're not. They're not, because you got your handles and then the joints and then the ropes just plug into that. So yeah, the length of the rope is static. And then when you buy them, I think it's just like small, medium, large, or something like that. They have them just spaced out like that.
So weird.
Yeah, they're not adjustable. Can grab mine, but there's different knots you can tie, and I learned to tie like this. Let me grab it actually.
I have one I've got a rope that I got from Buddy Lee, and his is got one of those handles with the ball bearings and stuff on it too, but the way you adjust it is to kind of unscrew. There's like a little socket that has a threaded core, and you just kind of screw it into the PVC. So
no, the cross ropes don't have that. But what I was doing at first is just tying just a regular knot, but then I learned that you can tie them this way. Because if you just tie a knot, like just a straight knot like that, then it kind of puts this bend in the rope a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but if you do this other, like once I caught onto this, it's like a figure 8 kind of knot. So then your rope is still straight.
Yeah.
Right. It's not kind of cocked like that. It's nice and straight. So mine, I have one like figure 8 knot on one side, and
that's cool.
And if I do a second one, it'll still be really tight, but then I can still jump it, but there's no double unders or no leeway for any kind of bullshit if I put that second knot in there.
And it gives you a nice Celtic vibe.
Yes. I guess it does.
Yeah. PVCs. And I noticed when I had just the regular knot, if you had some good momentum, it would change the weight of the rope. It would be heavy on one side until it got down, and then it would be a weird. Exactly what you were doing is that figure eight knot is the way to do it. I had this experience.
So you only have the figure eight on one side of the rope, you said, Richard.
Yep.
Okay.
Just on one. And Sean, like you were saying, when I first started, I was using PVC, and I tried just using those knots, and it bothered me to only have it on one side. I think because the cross rope's a little bit heavier, I don't really notice it just with on one side. But with the PVC rope, I definitely wanted to have like matching knots on both sides because it felt odd if it wasn't like evenly matched.
I have a couple of those Here ropes, those weighted ropes from Hero. And when I got them, the guy who sent them to me asked me my height and stuff so that he could kind of pre-size them. And then I had to cut them down. But those are adjustable, but I had to use like bolt cutters, and not just like wire cutters, like bolt cutters to get, because there's a cable that's like a 1/4-inch metal braided cable in there. And yeah. And it was work. It was like 10 minutes to adjust the thing just to kind of wrestle it to the point where I could get it snapped. And then I broke the handle.
But money, and then broke the handle. All my ropes, I've got, I just bought 100-foot paracord cable cord from Walmart for like $3, and everything's built off those. So I made them just dirt cheap. And then the nylon, I'll just burn the nylon with a lighter to get it slide beat on, and I've been doing that for years. So far it seems to be working, but I've kind of taken the cheap way out here recently.
I mean, actually, Aaron, you were just asking the other day about using paracord and I've used it. My nephew and I built some jump ropes and used black paracord, and it seemed to work really well. He loves his jump rope.
Yeah, it's a little bit heavier, isn't it, than normal stuff?
Is it? Yeah, it's pretty sturdy stuff too.
Well, we can hold loads of stuff that they. I think the little nylon cords themselves can hold quite a lot of weight. And
yeah, take lots of abuse. Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming on and spending time talking to me. This has been a lot of fun, and it's always a pleasure to see you and interact with y'all on Instagram. I feel like I've learned so much from each one of you, and it's a pleasure to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having us. Thanks for the stretching tips. I'll give them a shot tonight. And
sure.
Glad to speak to all of you in person. It's or not really in person, but in the digital world, I'm glad I get the chance to talk to Aaron. Really happy about it.
Yeah, it's so cool. I just love being able to connect with people in a way that is more than, 20 character comments and stuff like that. It's always fun to interact in Instagram, and I can't stop gushing about how wonderful the community is, but it's really fun to be able to come and talk shop with people who understand jump rope and aren't like your family members who put up with jump rope,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys.